SoberPod is turning 4 this season, and over the years, we have found that what matters in recovery isn't the hour we spend recording each week,
or the hour we may spend in a meeting.
It's the other 23 hours of the day where we need to focus our recovery when nobody else is looking.
Our head can be in the clouds, but our feet must be firmly placed on the ground.
Join us on season 4 as we talk about what we do in recovery with the other 23 hours of the day.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
LifelongCoachingServices.com is your go-to place for life and wellness coaching to help you achieve your goals, whether they're in business, career, or your personal life. LifelongCoachingServices.com can help you reduce stress, increase focus, and develop positive habits so you can be successful. Check them out today at LifelongCoachingServices.com or call 215-792-4555. LifelongCoachingServices.com. Fear and courage.
I'm Carl. I'm an alcoholic. I almost forgot again. My sobriety is August 22nd, 2014. God, I do that every time.
My name is Ellen. I'm an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is June 11th, 2013.
My name is Chelsea. I'm an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is February 19th, 2015.
This is SoberPod. We on SoberPod do not speak for or represent any outside recovery or 12-step groups. All opinions expressed on SoberPod are those of 3 deeply flawed individuals with good intentions. We are not addiction, health, or mental health professionals and strongly urge you to listen in moderation.
Who's doing the hello, everybody?
Hello. I don't know. I guess it's you.
Hey, we are here talking about fear and courage, as you heard Ellen say. And why are we talking about fear and courage? Well, because I don't know, fear like runs its little freaking vein through just about everything I do. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have had a lot of run-ins with just generalized fear, and it's stupid shit. I hate fear. I mean, I really do. It's it's something I had to remind myself the other day. Standing in my backyard, yet again, we talked about this on the podcast a little bit, where I have to kind of like remember that like nothing bad has happened in my home. Like nothing like, traumatic has happened. And sometimes I just gotta like, let that sink in that like, everything's okay. I'm safe. My family's safe. All those other types of things. Because sometimes for no reason, other than the wind blows, I sit there and just get like, a lot of anxiety or worry or fear. And that's kind of like, I don't know. I think that's generally everybody. Wouldn't you guys agree or no?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. It's more pronounced. I hate to say this, I don't want to, make you think that, sobriety is scary or anything, but
sobriety is scary as
you're
shit.
Just more, yeah. I think I'm more aware of my fears now that I'm sober and I'm not drowning them in alcohol or, getting that quote unquote liquid courage to beat somebody up or cuss them out or whatever.
Yeah. I think that like, I don't know where I was watching a documentary recently, but it's basically like in this day and age with so much technology and access to everything and social media, like everyone's anxiety has just shot through the roof. And that's why, a lot of kids who are, always on their phones, are so anxious and have so much fear. Like I see it in my sister, who's a Gen Zer. She has crippling anxiety over, having to order her own food. Like it's crazy. And so I think for whatever reason, fear, anxiety is very prevalent in our society for whatever reason. Not an expert.
I'm not an expert, but I do play with it on the internet. So I just thought we would get together and talk a little bit about fear from a standpoint. One, we did this ebook, which is cool. It's up on our member section, and we also did like other supporting articles. Because the reason I put up all these things too is because I was looking for more information around my personal fear. Like, right, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, how can I deal with this differently? And I know that we have, we have access to the 12 steps, right? There is a process by which we can deal with some, I guess, normal, or in the past fears, but we can go through the 12 steps, but every day in our daily life, there are still things that are going to come up. It's not like you go through the steps and it suddenly strikes you like wonderful and you don't have like, I don't know, human feelings anymore. It's normal to have fear, so let's, break down a little bit fear as we did it in the ebook. It says a biological response. When you're afraid, your body goes into a fight or flight mode. Do you guys ever get fight or flight? You guys ever be like,
or freeze,
or fawn, or
fawn?
Yeah,
or fondle.
I've never been so scared to get to the fondle response, but I've seen a lot of dudes that look like they're in the fondle response. No, there is a like a fawn, like you, it's not freeze. You actually become more subservient under fawn, right? It's not just a freeze mode. It's like you become like almost subservient. Isn't fawning. You
just
fawn.
like self-preservation. Like, yeah, trying to stay alive.
Please don't kill me. So then there is, the internal and external stimulus. So fear can arise from within or without. So thinking about losing your job, which I do on a consistent basis, that's an internal stimulus, and that can cause fear. And then coming face to face with a grizzly bear is an external fear. Of course, it also causes fear. I don't know anybody who's like, I came face to face with a grizzly bear, no fear, right?
Who's a cute little bear? Let's pet that little bear.
I mean, it seems to make sense, but the real, I guess, struggles are like in our daily life. Like, when's the last time you came across a grizzly bear, Ellen?
I'd say 2000. Never.
Chelsea, you're in a more, rural state of mind. Sometimes you could find plenty of bears running around your neck of the woods, right?
I've never seen one in Utah. There was a viral video that went out like a year ago that came up in school when we were talking about the fight or flight response of this guy who encountered a mountain lion. That's what we call it here. Some people call it a cougar.
Or a big cat.
He just filmed it on his phone the whole time. It was so scary. But
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It was stalking him.
Yeah.
And he was screaming like, no, bad kitty.
And finally he scared it away. But
yeah,
man. Yeah. I mean, I haven't encountered a mountain lion personally. So
I don't know any time I've actually really come. I mean, one time I got chased down by my junior high school dean, and he was chasing me, trying to grab me to see if I had dope on me, and I was scared, man. I was just a little kid.
Did you?
Yeah.
Anyway,
but that's besides the point. Okay. So I actually, either way, as I was running though, I felt like poop come out of my butt. You know what I mean? I was like, oh damn, like that's coming out, and cause it's just like he was reaching for me, and it's scared. But that's like, I don't know, like I mean, there's other times, guns pulled on me, stuff like that. And there is a fight or flight response in that stuff. But again, most of my fear, those are like real, specific moments that you can really look at, whether it be an accident, on the freeway or accosted in a parking lot. You're kind of like, all right, what do I do? But most of the time, the fear that we're talking about, or I think that we should be talking about, is more or less the internal fear, the stuff that has like, that messes with you, more or less throughout your daily life. And it's actually what takes us away from so many things in life, right? It takes us away just from our daily life living stuff. So I guess if we were going to talk about fear and courage, there is like an amount of, courage that we come up with, relating to that stuff. So one of the things, from the articles that we have, and I thought we would just go through and ask the questions and then answer. So there's like 3 questions per affirmation in these 2 affirmations that we have, and they deal with, kind of like fear and courage, and then faith over fear. I just thought it'd be really fitting for us as a group. So I just shooting right out of the gate, I'm going to pick on Ellen, or let's flip a coin. Let me flip my magic coin. Ellen, what are the things in situations? So this is from the affirmations of Living with Courage. We posted it on September 20th. The first question is, what are the things in situations that I fear that limit my life? And you're not talking about me, you're talking about you. So what are the situations that you fear and that you feel limit your life?
I think a big one is just fear of the unknown. So anything, I like to have what I call loose plans, but sometimes, because I know there's wiggle room and, sometimes things fall through and then you have to.
It's kind of like how I feel about morals. I like to have loose morals.
Oh my God, Carl.
Sometimes plans fall through.
Right. Yeah. You just have to have a backup lie, So, and then, but if the future is totally unknown, that's really kind of scary for me and a lot of people. Or if it's unknown when something's going to happen. So like, something's going to happen, but you don't know when. That's also kind of frightening. And so those fears tend to occupy my mind space a bit. And if I try to future trip too much, it can rob me of my joy.
Definitely. I get there a lot when I relate completely to future tripping, because I love, so for me, it's like an amount of control. I love to if I know what's coming, then I can quote unquote plan and prepare and,
right.
And I can I can best predict, and look for the better outcome or whatever the hell it is. But I do that stuff a lot, and it robs you, because it never is like what you think it's going to be. Like, it just never happens the way that you imagine or predict or can't, you know what I mean? It never happens that way.
Right.
So, yeah.
Usually it's like some better version and you're like, oh, I never even thought of that. And then, it's good for like tucking that away for less anxiousness the next time you're in that situation, but it's still hard to kind of get over that fear of the unknown.
Yeah, I say, there's a saying I've proven that worrying works because 99% of the things I worry about never happen.
Right.
So I'm like, that's kind of how I've always viewed it. I was like, yeah, I'm ahead of the game. So what about you, Chelsea? Where's your I guess what are the things that in situations that you fear and that limit your life?
I would say, I want to say the fear of failure. But more so it's just that I'm going to do something wrong. I just hate, being wrong, I guess, whether it's like something with work or school or, like an important decision I have to make. Like, I just get a lot of anxiety over, I have to get this right. If I fuck it up, it's going to be the end of the world. Like that's where my mind goes. Situations, just kind of a random one to throw it out there, is when I'm in crowds of people. I I have a lot of fear and anxiety being around a lot of people, specifically a lot of noise. But that also plays into like my anxiety disorder. But I would say for the most part, it's, you know, what you said, Ellen, kind of the fear of the unknown, and just worrying all the time that I'm doing something wrong. What about you, Carl?
Oh, you guys are bringing up so many good things. I'm like, because fear can be, in ACA, they talk about, we are addicted to excitement. And then when they clarify that in the book, they actually say something along the lines of like, initially they said they wanted excitement to say fear, but they thought that like most people wouldn't admit that they were addicted to fear. And I just kind of was like, so I really relate to addicted to excitement because, I do feel alive when I am in fear, to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like I love like the idea of like, oh, that anxiety and that like, sometimes like, I've talked about it in the podcast before too. Like, when the kids are crying and, I don't know, like maybe a baby is on fire or like whatever. and I walk into a room and I fucking scream like, what are you, who's fucking crying in here? It's like, there's nothing like more delicious than adding more chaos to the thing. And it just seems like, that fear is a part of that, right? It's a part of the chaos and those types of things. So as much as I don't like, I say that I don't like the chaos, I actually do. So it's a really weird to think about that situation. And it's in the amount of fear, I'm addicted to that amount of chaos. It's like, I am so, a good description. Let me go into the story. I went in I think I talked about this before too. Gosh, you go back and listen because we've talked about this before. Playing paintball. Like I used to grab a 6-pack, grab some paintball balls and go fill up and we go play paintball and it was just me sitting in a parking lot with the 6-pack. But the whistle will blow and the shit would be going off, and I get so hyper focused that I think of nothing else, right? And that I love the idea of like and I was good at it. That's the other thing is I'm the last man standing a lot, and it's because I would just go. I love that shit because it brought me out of me completely, and I got to focus on just like killing people, and it was just like it was just so awesome, and so I guess that's kind of the thing for me is that's the addicted to fear part, right? But what I really don't like is the mental anguish about like, again, thinking I'll be fired or being found out or like, I feel like, that found out as in a imposter syndrome, like I really shouldn't be here. And that kind of involves like, I can only imagine like getting called out in a meeting and like Carl, like, just like you were saying, Chelsea, like, oh, it's like, Carl, you don't really know the answer, do you? It's like, oh no, I don't, or something along those lines where I just, that makes my palms sweat. That makes the shit happen. But again, it's not that I'm ever in a situation where that would ever be the case. To be honest, I don't think I would ever put myself in a position where that would, because I'm so afraid of it. And then even if so, I would readily admit, I don't know what I'm talking about, or I wouldn't even get involved. I would just say, no, I'm sorry. This is not my area of expertise.
Did you find that you ever consciously drank over those fears, or was it just an underlying thing?
I think that's a great thing, guy, that we should talk about that too, because that is like getting to the heart of, I think, where we're going here is to say, like, identify. Like,
did you ever get drunk to confront somebody? Or
just myself. Just you son of a bitch.
In the mirror.
You in the mirror. I've seen you before.
I thought I told you not to hang around here.
I've told you don't show up here again. It's like, fucker. So,
is that why you have paintballs splatters on your mirror?
Broken paint everywhere. So, but no, I think that, the 12-step process, we definitely do that. We write that stuff down and we identify that stuff, and we make really a conscious effort to identify those things that are glaring fears for us. But, as I think some of us are, unless we're really diligent about that stuff, we may kind of fall back into behaviors like I am, in some regards in my recent days. I've been very fearful about certain things, and that's because I haven't done those things. I haven't actually sat down to say, boy, what am I doing right now? Am I actually afraid of this, or is it something underneath that? Should I write this down and say this out loud to somebody? Because I haven't done that yet, and that's what I'm kind of getting to. It's like, there's a little bit of that I think we need to do as we move forward in our recovery, is to really start to take that opportunity to write those things out and, look at underneath and look under the hood and ask yourself, am I really afraid of losing my job? Or am I really afraid of not providing for my family? Am I really afraid of not having money for, you know what I mean? Like, is that it? Or am I really afraid that I might have to find a new job? Oh, Starbucks. No. And yeah. All the extras, right? Tighten my belt. Am I really afraid of tightening my belt? I mean, it's just stuff like that. So, okay, so let's move on to the next one. Chelsea, who is the bravest person that you know, and what can you learn from them? I have a hard time with this question, so.
I don't.
Oh, wow.
The bravest person I know is my brother.
Awesome.
He was born with a congenital heart defect, and went through, he had a stroke, legally blind, partial paralysis, got a heart transplant. And he never complained, other than the only thing he complained about was having to get poked to get lab draws, like nothing else. He was always had a positive attitude, still does, can make anyone laugh. And, it's just incredible to me, like, that you can go through so much and come out like a better person. And so with that, I just think, if he can go through all of that, I can do hard things too. I am capable of doing the things that seem impossible, because, he's a walking miracle, and I do a lot of things because of him. I'm going to nursing school. I was very influenced by his care growing up, and I try to care for him, but basically what I'm saying is that it's sometimes the people who have been through so much that we can learn the most from. And I don't know, I look up to him more than anyone out there. So what about you, Ellen? Who is the bravest person that you know?
Oh, that was really cool. I loved hearing about your brother. The bravest person I know or knew was my dad. He was diagnosed with in his 70s with a rare form of cancer that had like a 5% survival rate. And even despite that, he never lost his resolve to try and beat it. Like, he never gave up. And when he was basically having trouble breathing, like he was still trying, he was fighting hard. And I don't feel like he ever gave up, even though he wanted to, take the comfort route at the last, because he knew like it was a fight that he couldn't win anymore. But despite being warned by the doctors that, chemo at his age would cause heart attack and stuff like that, he decided to go with it anyway. He was going to throw whatever he could at it to try and survive. So I always think he's brave. And on top of that, he was an excellent provider. The man worked super hard and never complained. And what I can learn is just having that spirit of never giving up, never giving in, just not allowing circumstances to dictate, my decisions, stay true to who I am, which is a fighter. Carl, what about you?
Oh, I say I have a hard time with this one because, because sometimes I just draw a blank and I just, because I really, I know so many people who've done so many things, but then it's like, and I just think more recently with Steve, like that's what it was kind of coming to my brain, because Steve is like, he's going through a shit ton. And, and just the fact that right now it's like, he seems to be turning a corner, and it's very cool to watch him on the Facebook and communicate and start to get a little bit more positive. And he's really starting to apply, I think, some of the bigger life lessons, that
absolutely.
So you start to go, all right, like that's very admirable to be able to just kind of stand up and face that. And I think that's the other thing. Just about everybody in recovery has a little bit of that in them. But, just to, when you have to do it, as hard as he's doing it right now, you could just tell that he's working hard to to really, dig his feet in and really find the more positive aspects of what's going on with him. So if you haven't listened, go back and listen to, was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. Go back and listen to last week's episode on Steve, and you'll understand a little bit more about why I'm saying that. Okay. In what ways, wait, sorry. I'm on the wrong one. What is one small thing I can do today that makes me feel uncomfortable? And I'm thinking, drumstick up my ass, I'm thinking,
I was going to say thong underwear.
I'm thinking this has got some Vaseline and some large object involved. So it's one thing I can do today that makes me feel uncomfortable. Being vulnerable is like one of the things that, and I guess it's being able to be much more readily admitting that, of those fears and or that I am uncomfortable, to say that to other people, to voice that stuff in a more, I guess, vulnerable way, rather than in my normal way of doing it, which is sarcastic or argumentative or, some complaint, you know what I mean? Like I don't like always blaming or whatever it is, when really I should be looking at how I feel and be willing to say how I truly feel. And even when it makes me look like a wimp or a pussy, and that's, I think that's primarily what I need to do.
Yeah. That made me think of like honesty. So sometimes it would make me feel uncomfortable to be honest about what's going in my mind, if I feel like it's going to make me look bad,
or create a mess.
A mess.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just better not to say the shit,
Because the inner critic is like, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why now? Why not before? Why not this? Why not that? So
you're such a badass. Then why didn't you?
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
Where's that paintball gun?
There's that paintball gun. Get him in the mirror. Fuck him up. I got a really good drunk voice here.
Yeah, you do. I think you got some practice. Chelsea, what do you think is some small thing you can do today that makes you feel uncomfortable?
No Vaseline, no drumstick. Go.
No, thank you. It's kind of an ever recurring theme. I need to know I need to practice saying no and not taking on more than I need to, because I overwhelm myself and that causes anxiety. It's just a cycle that I go through. But, holding boundaries with people and knowing that it's okay, that I'm not being rude and I'm not being selfish. I have to say no to things sometimes. I can't do it all. So it makes me feel uncomfortable because I feel guilty. I feel selfish. I feel bunch of negative emotions just because I stood up for myself, or, kind of put myself first in that scenario. So that's something I can do today to make me feel uncomfortable.
Love it.
Well, as we move on in our affirmations and in our reflections from September 17th, we posted a affirmation about faith overcoming fear. And again, I know you're going to say, Carl, you're just an agnostic. What do you know? And I'm going to say, well, maybe you're right. But I do have a certain amount of faith that I get to operate with, and that I get to use in order to overcome my fears. And I do find myself using a lot of that faith, and that faith may come in, different, just because I don't believe in a deity outright, so, the white beard, the cane, and all that stuff. I don't really subscribe to that level of belief. But what I do have is I have a lot of faith in, like, I guess, like, some people call it, like, Bill Wilson calls it the spirit of the universe, right? I understand that, like, there is a greater, force out there, and I'm not it, which I think is awesome. So in this case, I really do utilize that idea of faith, in that way. And I don't know if Steve would probably sit there. What would Steve say, Ellen? Do you think he would be like,
I'm trying to get a Steve voice in my head.
He might laugh thinking or something. I don't know.
He places faith in science, and he places faith in things that you can prove, things that have evidence, questions that could be answered. He puts his faith in that, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And it's definitely helpful. As you guys know, my faith looks a little differently. And it kind of goes beyond nature, it's supernatural faith. It's why do I feel peaceful when all this ish is going on around me? But I'm peaceful, I'm calm, I'm okay, I can handle it, I'm strong. But everything around me is falling apart.
I think you just answered, why is my faith more important than my fears?
I was kind of going that direction. Yes.
So that's the question. So tell us more about that.
The way I look at it is, when you're facing something so big and so scary, even let's just say a doctor can't solve, right? Or somebody really smart can't solve. It's like, well,
why did you do that with quotes? Really smart. No, I'm kidding.
Did I?
No,
I didn't even notice.
But it sounded like it.
What happens when those things fail you? I don't even want to think about it, but personally, I have to believe in God. I have to believe in my faith, because without it, I don't know how else you would do it. I mean, it just never occurs to me to believe in humans, or to believe in, processes, maybe to a certain extent, but who created those processes? Who created those humans? That's kind of how I look at it. Like, I don't want to go to the middleman. I want to go to the boss.
To the source.
I'm going to the source. Okay. I'm going to the creator. I'm not messing with these middlemen people. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm going to bypass you and go straight to him. So that's kind of how I look at it.
What about you, Chelsea? First of all, is your faith more important than fear?
Oh yeah. I mean, okay. I feel like fear only has as much energy as you give to it. And so, my faith, I don't subscribe to any religion. I just call myself spiritual. I believe in a higher power. And I've been through so many shitty, crazy situations in my life, and I've witnessed miracles, like I mentioned earlier with my brother, things that I only prayed about, and I didn't know, is he going to get a heart transplant? Is he going to survive? Having to kiss him goodbye when I was like 8 years old, getting through all that stuff. If I didn't have faith, that little glimmer of hope that things would get better, then chances are like I would just lose my mind. And the fear would win, and so it's important for me to practice staying present in the moment and grateful and speaking to my higher power, which, by the way, for me, it's not like, dear so-and-so, or, I don't know. It back in the days when I went to church, it used to be, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. It's not like that anymore. It's just more so like, shit, I am going through a lot right now. Could you help me out? Could you give me some peace? And usually when I ask for it, I get what I need. And so I think having faith is so important. And just to kind of back up to what you asked, Carl, about Steve, is I remember, when I first started listening to SoberPod, I thought it was so interesting. Like, how could an atheist be an AA, But Steve repeatedly said that his higher power was the fellowship, it's AA. And I would say that the fear of getting sober versus his faith in a program that's, been proven to work, like that was more important, his faith in that program. So anyway, I was all over the place, but I just wanted to mention that.
That's great.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah. I think part of that for me too is that Steve is my sponsor, my first sponsor. He gave me that leg into that understanding, and so that actually got me going further. That's why I am agnostic. Actually, thank God for an atheist, right? So it's like that's kind of how I look at it. And so for me, it's like, I talk about, I don't know where it says it in some of those books, all people who have faith have courage kind of a thing. And that's, where I see, a lot of faith, from a lot of people, like in the rooms and that kind of stuff. And so, my number one fear, whatever 7 years ago, was that I was going to drink again. No doubt about that. Like, I thought for sure that I was going to go back to drinking. So, but I had faith in a program, and I had faith in the people that were in the program. I had faith that what they were telling me was actual, the business, right, that I needed to know. So, I relied on that stuff, and that to me was faith, right? That to me was just a pure example of faith. So I did that stuff, and then, as I'm relying on that stuff in the process of that program, it told me that I had a new employer, that I had to have a new
way of living,
with a higher power, and I had to redefine that, what that meant for me, and I did that stuff. So I believe today that I have that faith that ensures that I have something between me and that first drink, which I never thought I would ever have. And that's when I talk to dudes today, I just tell them, like, you don't have to have quote unquote capital God, but you have to have something between you, in my opinion. From where I am at today, I understand that where I'm at. So is faith more important than my fears? I mean, yeah, do I still feel like, there's a certain amount of question for me? Yeah, because I want to go back to my old way of thinking? Hell yeah. Like, I do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause I want the control. And that to me is like, so that's what I'm about today, is I tend to, I navigate that very differently today. And so, and a lot of times I'll try every which way to get the control. And when I don't get it, and when I see that I can't get it, or if I'm exhausted, or I'm experiencing too much pain, then I will have that conversation that Chelsea talks about. And I sit there and just kind of go like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Please take it from me, that kind of thing. And it doesn't always come easy. That's sometimes a really hard lesson to get.
And then after you do that, does your mind kind of feel calm, or?
Yeah, after I give it up, I'm really looking for peace, and that's what I'm looking for in that moment. And then I'm reminded sometimes, like, another thing will come up, and then I'll realize, like, oh, there I go again. You know what I mean? And then it's a joke. then like it's like, you know, then I feel like, oh geez, like this is getting out of hand, you know. So I guess, does that answer our question that we all find faith more important than fear?
Oh yeah. For me, I'd say yes.
In sobriety, I think I definitely find that to be true. Okay, so number 2, how can I use my faith to calm my mind when I'm feeling anxious? And for me, it's about I read Sermon on the Mount, and I forget who it is by again. I forget his name. Either way, he talks about having that conversation with your higher power like all day long, and for me, I try to do that, but again, there's days when it just gets away from me, and then I move into that anxiety, and then the other thing is, if something sets me off, it becomes really difficult to calm down, and I find myself getting obsessive, and I move into a whole nother level of thought. But one of the things that I do rely on, as we just discussed, which is, I call my sponsor, or I get a call from, and I just talk about those things with those people. And that to me is a part of that faith. And then of course, so again, if having that conversation doesn't work during the day, I find myself, catching up with somebody and just bringing it up just straight out. Oh, this happened today and it sucked, and I wish that I didn't do that or this or whatever. And so I get to say it out loud as well as internally. And that allows me to have a little bit more faith to calm down. What about you guys? Where do you guys use your faith to calm your mind when you're feeling anxious? How do you use your faith?
For me, it's just kind of vocalizing my thoughts to my higher power, I would say. I also have little like tokens, like in my car, I've got this weird little wooden circle that I spin that my uncle made for me before he passed away. And whenever I'm feeling kind of like anxious or fearful or out of sorts, then I'll just sit there and I'll like spin the little wooden, I don't know what wheel I'll call it. And for me, that's kind of like connecting to him, like in a spiritual sense, and it calms me down quite a bit. So it's not just like I'm fidgeting with something, there's an intention behind it. What about you, Ellen?
So kind of like meditating with objects.
Yeah, I mean, how do you use your faith to calm your mind?
Oh, okay. So I was just summarizing yours because I thought that was super cool. Basically, when circumstances come up and I'm maybe in my, let's say, grief stages, like, okay, God, well, why is this happening? What is the bigger picture here? So I may never know. Part of my faith is knowing that God has my best interests and loves me and also loves everybody else too. So he may allow something to happen in my life where for a purpose that is not known to me. And as much as I really dislike that, it happens. And, I will talk to God like, hey, where are you in this? What is the higher purpose? What do you want me to do? And a lot of times I do not receive an answer. So I just do the next thing that I think is the right thing to do and go from there. And that calms my mind down because I get that feeling that I'm in the right direction, that I'm asking the right questions, that I'm the guidance that I need will be given to me at the right time when, needed. Otherwise, continue as usual. So,
Ellen, do you get frustrated when there's not that answer? Like you don't get an answer, or?
Oh yeah. Sometimes,
because for me, it's like, if I don't have that instant gratification, then I'm like, well, fuck it. Like, why am I even doing this? Why am I even talking to this person?
I've had angry conversations with God. Yes. Like, come on now. You want me to do this thing that I don't know about for an unknown purpose. I'm happy to do it. I just want to know. So, but God is under no obligation to tell me. So I have to, it's kind of like humbling yourself. You gotta know your place. Right. And, God loves to humble me because, he knows that I need it. So, sometimes that's just the answer. I just need to be humble and go along with the program. Usually several years later, I can look back at that situation and go, oh, he was preparing me for something else, Oh, yeah. Kind of like when you're a kid and you're like, why do I have to look both ways? I don't understand. And then maybe, 10 years later, you see what happens if you don't. And you're like, oh, that's a terrible example, but that's kind of how it rolls around in my mind. And I think, Carl, you talked about how the faith calms you down when you're feeling anxious. So what would you say in what ways can being fearful teach you to be more compassionate?
Well, one is that, through ACA, I understand more about, I'm not perfect. I'm not, I'm not the only one either. Right. So it's like, and that's really important, I think, overall, because a lot of the times, even in AA, it's like everybody has this like spiel. A lot of times I don't know if people are some people just don't go full real, right? In AA, that kind of a thing. But, I hear people in ACA a lot go full real, and see a lot of tears. I see a lot of stuff going on there. And I'm like, okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about, because that's exactly how I feel. I feel I'm very, very much the same way. So, and then, what I've been learning is that, again, I'm not the only one. And then also that, I'm not perfect, and I have issues, man. And we all do. I think that's, more than anything, I think we all need to hear that stuff. Is that, we do the, like, there are people with the like fucking billions of dollars right now who are like, standing in their kitchen, scared shitless to tell their wife or significant other some stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, that nobody really needs to be afraid of. But you know what? Again, so money doesn't overcome those types of fears, and then neither does lack of money, right? So it just, we're all, fear is a good leveler, So for me, I can really see that, in terms of having, sympathy or empathy or feeling compassion for some, another person. That's what being fearful can teach me. Is just the idea of being, just the fact of being fearful can teach me to be compassionate. That's it. That's all I got to say. What about you, Ellen? Oh, sorry, Chelsea. You were going.
Well, I guess I just kind of had difficulty with this question. So, in what ways can being fearful teach me to be more compassionate? The only thing that came to my mind was, being fearful of something and overcoming it allows me to be there for other people who are going through the same thing. And so, for example, like getting sober is a great example. I was
while we're
scared,
on Sober Pod,
it is relevant. I was so scared to stop drinking because, what will my friends think? I'm never going to have fun again. Can I really stop and stay stopped? Like, a bunch of fear going through my mind. And I took that first step, and was it easy? No, but I overcame that first hurdle of just like stopping. And now I can be there for people who are in the same boat or are contemplating whether or not they want to get sober. And I do that, for my job. I get to see people struggling and people in recovery. And so that's the way I think it can teach me to be more compassionate, but I didn't really understand.
No, I think it goes both ways. I think it's a great response.
Absolutely.
Totally, yeah. I think mine is really coming from that same spot, but coming from it as in actual still being in fear. I think yours is like you talk about overcoming that fear. And I think that's even better, because that's what we're talking about in terms of fear and courage, So what about you, Ellen?
There's nothing better than hearing somebody in a meeting talk about how they're afraid of something coming up, like a court date or, some kind of issue like that. And then they go to their court date, let's say, and then the next week they come back and share like how great it went or how terrible it went, but they're still alive. They're still breathing. I think it just makes me more compassionate in that it's just fear is part of the human condition and we all have it. And we all fear the same things, but they come out in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. So fear is like an underlying thing in all of our conditioning, but for different people, it comes out as different things. A surface level example would be like some people fear heights, some people fear spiders, some people. So it's just kind of cool as far as realizing that even though my fear may not look exactly the same as yours, we both have it. And that's, it makes me, like you say, feel good that I'm not alone.
So that brings us to our last segment, which is let's go to a therapist. Dun, 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 dun. So here's what is a 10 question round? So we have a short, I guess, questions of how do you know if you should go to a therapist? And this is as it relates to fear. So the American Psychological Association poses these questions. All right, ready for the lightning round? Do you or someone close to you spend some amount of time every week thinking about a certain problem, or in this case, just the problem? Yes. So do you or someone close to you spend some amount of time every week thinking about a certain problem? So I would say yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is the problem embarrassing to the point that you want to hide it from others?
No.
I mean, it depends on the person. So I would say no in general, but over the past few months, has a problem reduced your quality of life?
Yes.
Yes, I'd say for myself too. Does the problem take up considerate time, e.g. more than an hour per day? Ooh.
Yes.
Depends on the day, but yeah, I'd say generally yes. Have you curtailed your work or education ambitions because of this said problem?
Yep.
Anybody?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. So are you rearranging your lifestyle to accommodate the problem?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we must all have some serious problems. If you answered yes to any of these questions, you would probably benefit from seeing a therapist. So why don't you guys hit the rewind 30-second stage and then answer these questions thinking about your problem and decide whether you should be going to see a therapist. Okay, so I guess here's the question. I'm not currently seeing my therapist on a regular basis, but I can definitely call up and make the appointment. I have set up I have a dude set up who knows all my shit, who basically has learned my history and my past. He has all that shit written down in between some middle of folder somewhere. Right? And he references it when I talk to him. So do you guys have that same said person in your life? Do you guys can call somebody up and do that?
I do.
You do? Chelsea?
She's been my therapist for 15 years.
Wow, 15
Bless her
years.
heart.
Wow. That's like a marriage or something. That's like, do you guys have kids together? Or is it
stuck with me? I don't have time to explain 15 years of bullshit.
Wow, that's crazy. I just couldn't imagine. I mean, my wife is the only person I've known for that long. It's crazy. Anyway, Ellen, what about you? Do you have a current therapy?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I don't have a current therapist. I've had therapists in the past. But but I'm definitely leaning towards getting back into therapy, because I tend not to know how my crazy affects me. It's only other people that notice it and go, "Oh, maybe you should get some help." And it's funny because I think I'm fine. I think everything is fine.
Crazy people usually do.
Right. See? But I do have a little bit of self-awareness to know, okay, well, maybe something isn't going fine because I don't like feeling this way all the time. And yeah. So my thinking gets a little askewed, and it's definitely it's definitely time. Yeah.
I used to judge like whether I should be like going to a therapist or talking to somebody, basically just based on how like how many people around me are crying at the same time. Right?
So 5 or more, you go to a therapist.
Yeah, it's like, have you made 2 or more people cry at the same time?
3 to 5, borderline. Yeah.
And actually ACA really helped me to consider the therapist, because I was like, I read the book and it said, it's choosing a therapist, and it really suggested it to say like some people don't do well with this kind of, and I knew that I had some deeper issues that needed to happen. That's why I actually I would always considered it. I called around and stuff, but you know what? I never went all the way through. You know what I mean? And so then when I started doing ACA, or just when I read the book, I was like, all right, I got to figure this out, how to get one and do all that stuff. So it was cool to figure it out, because now I could tell somebody how to get one. But yeah, it was it was something I needed to do for a long time. And so I'm really glad that I did it, even though I probably should because I don't know if I'm really too comfortable with my current therapist in that, like, I don't really think he gets me. Just saying, I just when I talk to this dude, all I think to myself was like, I think to myself, like, you have not been where I have been. You know what I mean? It just doesn't but again, I don't think I'll ever find that person, I
think it's a fair point. Like, if you go to a therapist one time and you guys don't vibe well, like that doesn't mean therapy is useless. It just means you haven't found the right therapist.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I've invested that much and I'm in. You know what I mean? I'm like, at least he knows me enough to where I'm like, and I did work through a lot of stuff that I needed to work through. So, but again, so taking this survey though, I mean, it says a lot about what we should each be doing moving forward on some level. So I guess what's your takeaway from this episode? What should we be learning? Why the fuck does this relate to recovery?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Carl. It's only Sober Pod. Fear is the, as the big book puts it, the corrosive thread that goes through all of our drinking, everything. I mean, when I did my 4th step, I didn't realize how much fear impacted all of the decisions that I made. Not just some, not just a few, every single one of them. And
drinking or sober, right?
Right. So once I was able to identify that, and, I was able to make better decisions, because I'm not making them out of fear. I'm making them from a place of a sober mind.
Yeah, I hear that one. Because for myself, like, there's a lot of decisions that I could make, as it relates to a lot of different things. But one of the things that, it used to be like, let me just, as I think about it, like, so I was thinking, when I was drinking, I don't know, tell me if this sounds familiar, because I don't know, Jason, who I started this podcast originally with, like the first couple episodes, when we were afraid of getting fired from our job in Burger King. And so instead of waiting around to get fired, we just decided to quit and say fuck you to the manager. And how we both said fuck you to the manager. Well, basically Jason said fuck you to the manager by standing on the manager's car and pissing all over the hood and saying like, fuck you. And I'm out there like, yeah, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, and it was, so those, believe that or not, like that's a decision made out of fear, right? You know what I mean? It's like, so I think a lot of the times, like today, you know, that 16-year-old in me basically wants to make a lot of decisions out of that kind of a fear. Like I want to go half cocked into something and do something in order, like fuck me, no, fuck you, right? Like, you know, I
might as well kind of like I might as well get away with something because something bad's going to happen anyway.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So yeah, might as well
makes perfect sense.
Might as well just burn it all down. Right. You know, that's what I say. I like to make things blow up, and that's what, you know, that's kind of part of it, but that's out of fear sometimes. So I think today, you know, I make way different decisions. And actually that's the other thing is most of the time, instead of making that blow up decision out of fear, actually after having reviewed and talked with my sponsor and written this stuff down and then waiting it out, I see like, oh my God, that would have been disastrous had I made that mistake. You know what I mean? Had I acted out of fear, like I would have really made some terrible mistakes. And, you know, knowing, you know, because you know more if you just let it ride, you know?
Right.
If you just like, you know, it's like you hold your hand, you just push your money in, and and you never know, you might win the pot. You know?
Let this play out. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Sometimes it's better to do that. So that's what I learned. What about you, Chelsea? What'd you learn in this episode?
Fear is a bitch. No, the whole episode, I was kind of thinking about this quote I heard on a podcast. It's called Spirit School. And it just kind of like hit me when I heard it. It said, you're going to wonder how you'll do it until you wonder how you've done it. And that just translates to a lot of things in my life that, you know, I can obsess about it. I can think about it and continue to sit in the fear and the anxiety until I actually like try, until I actually take that first step. And then, you know, a lot of the time, the things that I'm fearful of, when I just like go for it, like a stupid example, like taking a test, I'll sit there and like, okay, I don't want to click the start button. I don't want to click it, but then I click it and I'm like, okay, we're in it now. I've got like an hour and a half. And then I finished the test and it's like, that wasn't so bad. You know, a lot of the things that I'm fearful of, as soon as I put myself into action and I just do what needs to be done, like it's not as bad as I you know, made them out to be beforehand. I kind of catastrophize things. So, so yeah, that's what I learned.
Well, that's it. We've all learned a little something today.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did, children.
Okay, sober children.
Sober children.
We're gonna end our podcast now.
I hope they're sober children.
If your kids are drunk listening to this,
welcome to the club.
Get them a big bucket. Get them to a meeting. All right. Well, I guess that's it. That's all we have to say. That's all. That's it. Like, you know, Steve used to do a much better job at wrapping this stuff up. Oh yeah. By the way, if you are so inclined, a couple things, which is our subscriptions fell. This is really weird. Our subscribers fell, but our listens went up. Isn't that really weird? So I don't know. Maybe it's just some weird strangers just coming in and just like, maybe you got fear of clicking the subscribe button. Hey, look at that. Look at that transition. Bam, bam. So click that subscribe button, you fearful fucks. And then also if you'd like to go, we've been talking about this fear ebook, and that's on soberpod.com/member. Yeah, I did that. Member. and then, so then you can go there and sign up, and then you can get access to that ebook as well as access to the affirmation articles. And I think I posted those affirmation articles on our Facebook live page as well. But either way, you can go to soberpod.com and get access to that stuff. And it's really just, you know, stuff that we, you know, have been posting just, you know, because it's stuff that we go through. It's stuff I've been going through anyway. So do yourself a favor and sign up there and help us with our subscriptions.
Yeah, help support the show.
Yeah. Yo.
Get something out of it.
You selfish bastards.
And don't remember to stay active, stay sober.
See ya.
Peace.
Deuces.
Deuces. See you guys.